you all so much for your time. I'm Raquel. I'm here with the team at Acclinate. Just a little bit about me. I'm a public health practitioner, a wellness advocate, and someone who deeply believes in the healing power of truth-telling and connection. Tonight's event, Health is Wealth, is more than a panel. It's a reminder that our health, our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health is our greatest asset. We have an incredible lineup of voices tonight, leaders who live at the intersection of health, impact, and empowerment. Our first panelist is no stranger to this place, literally. He's the co-founder and CEO of The Gathering Spot, a trailblazer in building community-driven spaces where culture, connection, and innovation thrive. Ryan Wilson is a visionary leader who believes that belonging and well-being are essential to success, not just nice to haves. Please join me in welcoming Ryan to the panel.
Thank you.
Next up is a powerhouse of purpose and my boss. Tiffany Whitlow is the co-founder of Acclinate and a fierce advocate for equity in healthcare. She's known for bridging communities and corporations, blending science with soul. She leads conversations that shift just not minds, but also outcomes. She's also the heartbeat behind the Now Included community. Let's give it up for Tiffany Whitlow. And last but never least is a man who's reshaping what leadership in health equity looks like. Dale Smith is the CEO and co-founder of Acclinate with a background that spans technology, public health, and entrepreneurship. His mission is clear. He's ensuring that access, trust, and representation aren't afterthoughts. They're built into the system. Please welcome Dale. So before we jump into our conversation, I wanted to take a moment just to underscore why this conversation is so critical, especially when we consider the health landscape within the Black community. When we hear the word health is wealth, it sounds almost like a catchphrase, but we really have to think about what it means to be wealthy. Think about the wealth of a healthy life, a healthy heart. These are the things that are important. The reality is conditions like high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease disproportionately affect Black Americans. In fact, in the US, we have the highest rates of high blood pressure in the world. It often develops earlier in our life and is more severe. This isn't just a statistic. It translates to real lives impacted, to reduced capacity, and to significant healthcare costs that can erode financial stability. That's why consistent cardiovascular screenings, like the ones offered today, and proactive management aren't just medical recommendations, they are vital acts of self-preservation. So to kick off this conversation, I want to bring it home to each of these panelists. Ryan, I'll start with you. So what does health is wealth mean to you personally, and how has that definition changed over the course of your life and career?
Hi, everybody. I really appreciate y'all being here. This is a conversation that's super important to us as a business, but to talk about it personally for a second, y'all. When I look at our history in terms of just the entrepreneurial journey, I did not take my health seriously at all in the beginning stages of TGS. Honestly, I didn't take even a little bit. There was no pride in the idea that like how well I showed up from a physical or honestly even mental perspective, that just wasn't a part of the equation. So I have learned that I can only be as successful as I am healthy, right? And that isn't to me like any specific destination, but it's a lifestyle of just feeling that I'm doing my best to take care of me, that then gives me the opportunity to go off and do all the other things that I'm passionate about. But it has definitely been a transition. I come from that old school, grind it out, stay up late, what is sleep, what is food.
I'm not gonna let you do that to your dad.
Well, I mean, he works too, but not like this. But I thought that's what was needed to be successful, and I definitely have re-examined that position over time.
I love that. I love that. And I really like being able to work with Tiffany and Dale every day. You can tell that they prioritize their health and wellness, and it's something that means a lot to us just being on their team. And so I wanted to hand it over to you, Dale. In your work, how have you seen health or the lack of it impact someone's ability to build or sustain wealth?
Wow, there's so many examples. First of all, I want to say appreciate the opportunity, Ryan, to be here in your house to have this discussion. Appreciate everybody for taking your time to spend with us. Yeah, so it's interesting. I want to kind of tie back to your first part about wealth, and health is wealth. And I think about wealth in terms of assets and value. And I'm not just talking about from an economic sense, but I'm talking about it from your body. Right? And so if you think about what is the asset that probably has the greatest value to you, it should be your mind and your body and your spirit. But as you heard from Ryan say, sometimes we put that on the back burner. And so it's really this understanding that if we're really trying to maximize our greatest asset, which is our health and our body, it needs to be as intentional as you trying to build your 401k. As intentional as you trying to save for retirement, as intentional as you trying to climb the ladder or trying to be an entrepreneur or a multimillionaire. It has to be on that same level playing field. I mean, to your question that you asked, I mean, if I say this name, Chadwick Boseman, everybody know who I'm talking about there, right? Black Panther, and we know it was just about 5 years ago that he unfortunately passed away from colon cancer at the height of his career. And so it goes to show you that no matter how much money that you have, no matter how much you've attained or where you're going or how people are talking about you or you're in movies, that your health will supersede all of that. And if your health is not where it needs to be, it can all come to a halt. And unfortunately, the worst way, as we saw with Chadwick. And there's plenty of examples, even just, recently here in Atlanta, of very famous people who were in their late 40s and early 50s who passed away of cardiovascular heart attacks all of a sudden. And so I just encourage everyone to, if there's anything you get from this talk today, anything you get from us talking with you, is like, take the time to lean into your health. Don't ignore the symptoms. Don't take that first thing the doctor tells you for granted and just roll with it. Ask for the second opinion, right? Do the checkups, put it on the calendar, make it non-negotiable. And that should include things like eating right and sleeping right and exercising. So I'll probably answer more than I should, but that's my 2 cents right there.
No, that's amazing. And I think you pointed out something that's so important, and that's prevention. A lot of things are preventable. A lot of things can be course corrected with education, with access. And this really leads me into the next question to Tiffany. What do you see as the biggest barriers to health for our communities today?
Yeah, I think they both kind of touched on it. Del, even in your example in the story about Chadwick, I think it starts with the lack of education. Sometimes I just didn't know what I didn't know. And so how can I make myself better? How can I make my family better, my community better if I didn't know better? And so I think it's really going down to the core of saying, even for all of us, at what point in life were you taught to focus on your health, right? When you're growing up and you're in elementary school, you have PE, and then you start sports programs. We're not doing actual screenings throughout that journey. So we have people overusing their heart and their muscles and their resources, physical resources, but we're not doing a good job at screening those people. Then you transition into high school, into college, and it's not really until you're a college athlete that you're introduced to real physical screening opportunities. And if that's not your path, you're not introduced to it at all. You go right into the workforce as people. And so I think it's going back to the core and saying what can we leave this room with? You can leave with this personal responsibility to say, I'm going to take this conversation back home to my family members. I'm going to start building this inside my own doors. And then of course, go out to your friends and your local communities, work with, businesses and partners like this. Be in community with people who are making these decisions, but it really starts with that education.
Yeah, absolutely. I really think about when I started at Acclinate, something that really stood out with me about Acclinate and the Now Included community is that you are a trusted source. In a time where we don't know where to get trusted information, in a time where credible information is being wiped from the internet, Now Included is a trusted space, just like the Gathering Spot. This is a trusted space where people can come and they can know that they're getting access to the right things. And with such a deep historical mistrust, you really are safeguards to this next community of people. And so I wanted to ask you, Ryan, how do we rebuild trust in a health system that has historically caused harm while still encouraging people to prioritize care?
I mean, look, I talk about a lot in the entrepreneurial space that it's hard to become something that you haven't seen before, right? But I think that same principle applies in this context, right? We have to have people that do this work on a regular basis represented in the work in ways that give our community confidence that like they're getting quality information, right? And then I think from there, it's having sessions like this, y'all, where we really can make the difference as very small coalitions of people that just get very motivated to spread what we're talking about here throughout the community. But I mean, trust moves at the speed of relationships. And so we've got to talk to one another. It's the bedrock of what we do here at TGS. I think once you've established some sort of connection, then the information starts to flow a lot better, right? So we've got to do more of that. I mean, again, it sounds very simple, but like at the end of the day, that is where the things that I trust are the things that I've had the ability to get to know over time. I've seen that they're consistent, and I've seen that in good circumstances and then in bad, right? They've shown up kind of the same way. I don't look at this as being much different, right? And it's a scary topic. A lot of times, certainly when we start talking about medical things, I'm the first person to be like, I have no idea what y'all are talking about. Right? But if I know who I'm talking to and I know what they care about, then there's trust that I'm having a quality conversation.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes even back to community, right? Because it's like, oh, if you don't have an answer, we have a resource for you. I mean, even on Now Included, I might not know the answer, but I'm going to phone Dr. Marsh. And in the early days, I actually really did that. And so, I mean, it's just really like knowing that there's someone there with you. And the same thing happens when you do actually have a medical diagnosis, right? You have people that are there with you, helping you make these decisions. You're going to Google and you're doing all the things. It's usually not like a one-stop shop. And so I just think like we all can start doing more of that, being in community, more to being intentional when we're there. And it's funny you say that because we always say our business can only move at the speed of trust. And so, I mean, that's the honest reality, I think, for everyone who's trying to authentically build community.
Yeah, absolutely. And it made me think about Dale. It was a video I remember watching where you talked about like your grandma telling you like, oh, you're sick, you need to have a little bit of ginger ale, put this on and lay down. Now, it might not work.
Yeah, I had COVID, and she was telling me, put Vicks on my chest and wrap up in a blanket and sweat it out. And I was like, okay. It was like, that's my grandmother telling me that. I'm like, I'd take that over taking some drugs I don't know about. So, yeah, it's that's an issue. And even with family, something that you all can do is have these conversations with your family. I had the opportunity, as I get older, I tell stories a lot. As my team knows, they're like, oh, here old grandpa in the wheelchair with his story. But this weekend, I had the opportunity to go to Houston and spend time with my two grandsons. I've got a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old grandson. And it was really meaningful to me because my family history, my biological dad on his side of the family, every single male passed away from cancer before the age of 50. No exception. Every single one passed away from cancer before the age of 50. So you can imagine knowing that and talking to my doctors and thinking about my lifestyle, but getting to the point where I've hit that number. And all of a sudden now I'm like, hey, it almost feels like I've broken a curse, frankly, if we're going to be real to talk to each other. Thank you. And so now I'm looking at my sons and my grandsons, and I'm saying, what are you doing to ensure that you maintain a lifestyle to where that curse can be permanently broken? And so I just encourage everybody to have those type of conversations with your family. Understand about your family history. Talk about these things. But I will add to this. So my sister is a medical doctor. She's 3 years older than me, and she went to medical school later in life. She was a social worker for many years. And so we had and we still have that kind of trusted source in my family. And her phone gets blowed up all the time because anytime anybody has any issue and they talk to their doctor, sometimes they talk to her before they talk to their primary doctor. But we have somebody who's there in our family who knows us, that knows our history. And so that's helping us out. But again, unfortunately, that was later in life. But growing up, I saw many people die around me and my family at early ages. But I just knew that I didn't want that to be my record, and so I need to do something different as a result.
My mother takes her health very, very, very seriously. I'm 35. She has worked out. There might be a handful of days, honestly, y'all, in my life that she has not done something active, right? So like growing up, that's what I saw. It's just like my mom specifically was always making sure that she was prioritizing her health, right? And I mean, I'm talking about the fitness piece of it, but like it also connected to the food that we ate in the house and just like our overall lifestyle. She was really intentional about how we pursued everything. Beyond that, though, I don't really have a good answer, which is the thing that's kind of sad, right? Because I mean, while my mom had an absolute like huge influence, when I went off to college and mom was not there, things got very serious very, very quickly, right? Like I had to rebuild my own habits, and then we started the business. I had to rebuild them again, right? So it was sad to me that I wasn't in environments kind of post leaving the house where there were consistent conversations about what we were doing and why we were doing it. I mean, I look back at those years in DC, and it was like, it almost feels like we were in a race to consume as many calories as possible in the shortest amount of time as possible, and there wasn't a lot of working out happening at all. And I regret that, right? I do hope that for my children who are 5 and 3, that it will be something that's a little bit more consistent and intentional in their life in a way that it wasn't for me as I got a little bit older.
If I could just kind of add to that, I talk about this journey. My team knows in my late 20s, I was a big boy. And I've shown pictures to my team. They're like, no, that's not you. Because I went through some things in life after I got out of the military, had a difficult time adjusting. And that mental challenge I had, I think, fed into my unhealthy lifestyle. So I say to you, like, even if you're not there today, it's never too late. And even if you are there today, as someone said to me earlier, life is lifing, and sometimes life may hit you, and you may not be in the place you need to be at. I think the key is just to understand that, like, all right, I may not be where I need to be at today, but there's always the opportunity for me to make a change, small or large, to get back on track and where I want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really feel like this plays really well into our next question, because you're talking about how your family influenced you, how you're influencing your kids. And Tiffany, I wanted to ask you, what role does culture or spirituality play in how we approach health and healing?
Everything. Literally, it is how you feel. It's you get in the car and you think about culture and you think about those cultural moments, like when you go to a street festival, or you think about the type of music that you're listening to in the car. If you want to have sweet time with your honey, you're like, okay, what kind of music do I want to listen to? Like, literally, music and culture just go hand in hand and have a direct correlation to how it can make you feel. When you think about when we have issues, especially in the South, you go to church and you pray about it. Like, there are many times when we first started our company, we thought about, like, who are these activation points, these places in community that already have effective trust. Church is one of those places. And so I think it's like a core part of how people are making decisions overall today. I know people who might struggle with like mental health issues, and they get in their car and they're like, okay, it's the type of music that I want to listen to that's going to put me in a certain mood that's going to allow me to make whatever decision at the end of that. And so I think the same thing happens for healthcare. I lost my grandfather 1 year ago on Friday due to cancer. And like at that initial diagnosis, my whole team knows, because this is a very public journey, it was all about the music. Like I listened to spiritual music from the time I went to sleep to the time I woke up. Like I listened to it all throughout the night. Like it was the thing that kept me together during that time, because I knew I had to keep everybody else around me together. And so that's where I was kind of going to go when you were talking about like what are we doing for those future generations. I think like that mental health component is something that we don't openly talk about. I think that we are having conversations, but the conversations are still happening in a silo often. And so it's not many times that people are getting on stage to say, I wasn't okay yesterday. Like I'm okay right now, or I'm smiling right now, but on the inside I'm really broken. And through that brokenness, really find out like, I don't have time to prioritize my physical health, or I don't have time to do X, Y, or Z. And it's like, okay, can you help that person overcome that journey? We are still going to the doctor. You tell the doctor you're not feeling good. Doctor's like, here's some Zoloft for you. So my team knows I suffered from postpartum depression. I have a 2-year-old. And after that journey, I went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, you might want to try Zoloft. It's literally sitting on front of my computer because I was like, I can't imagine taking something that's going to control how I feel. And to each its own. It might actually work for me, and it might be the best thing for me, but I can't bring myself to actually consume that medication. Then you go to research and you find out like there's not diversity in the clinical trials, and that's a whole nother soapbox. But I think it's just like having this honest, open conversation, remembering that church is still that outlet, remembering that music is still that outlet, and those things are there for us as connection points, but you have to move beyond those feelings. Like you can't get stuck in that pause. You actually have to really breathe, internalize your feelings, and then go make a decision. And so just know that here at the Gathering Spot, you have a community of people. Through the Now Included community, you have a community of people. All of you all are here to consume this information, and it's like each of you now should be motivated to take these conversations into your home.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you must have been reading my mind because you answered the next question already. But
And I did not read your question.
to close us out, I wanted to ask each one of you, what one tangible action do you believe everyone here can take to invest in their health starting tomorrow, but I would say starting tonight?
I want to give you two because I can't choose between the two.
You get to make up your rules. She just said you get to. I'm
Oh,
just
yeah,
playing.
yeah, it's two. Okay, here's two. Raise your hand if meditation is a part of your routine. Wow, I love to see that. Thank you. So that was one of them. So obviously,
he just has to be healthy.
I'm a big believer in meditation. I believe that meditation and going back to the mental state of really kind of getting you centered, whether it be a spirituality connection or just an understanding of kind of what your own body is trying to tell you in ways that you can't really get when you're busy moving around. So if you don't have meditation be part of your life, I would highly encourage you just start with 2 minutes of that, sitting still and trying that. But the other thing would be raise your hand if you have a primary care physician right now. Love it. We got a good group in. Maybe they don't need all of this this information we have because they're using it already. And I know it sounds kind of trivial, and we're not just talking about just any doctor. I think it's really important that you find someone, and you may have to spend some time shopping around because it ain't easy to find that right person. But find someone that really understands you, understands your life, is able to track you longitudinally. So you kind of get out of this transactional piece, something's wrong with me, and now I have to get sick care. When you have somebody to work with you. And the story I'll give is I have a primary care physician walked in, is like, I'm having a hard time sleeping. And I'm thinking, you know, she's gonna prescribe me some medicine. She's like, what's going on with your life, boy? Like, what's the deal? And I'm like, well, I got this going on and this going on. She's like, well, don't you understand why you have a hard time sleeping, right? Let's work on those issues before we start prescribing you something. And so I just think having that right type of physician that really can be with you along the way and help you in that journey is worth the investment and time it takes to find that person.
That was good. I would encourage everyone to support all of the local partners that we have here in the room. And so it's oftentimes we go into a community and they're like, I don't know where to go. And I feel like we're very intentional to make sure that we invite the partners in the room, and we like to say we meet people where you are. And so for everyone from Ryan and his mental health awareness that he does actively, his therapy that he does, but I heard he's fully booked, to Sky Clinical Research, who has active clinical trials. I know they like to advertise the weight loss studies, but they are here, of course, screening for high blood pressure today. To Dr. Patricia Marsh, who's been with us from the beginning of the journey and offers telemedicine services. And it's like, if you get sick in the middle of the night, like, call me, hit me up. I am here for you. And of course, Randomize Now, who's also Dr. Lovey here locally, who loves to be in community, loves to be supporting at your events, if you have local church events or something and opportunities. But it's really like fully maximize the opportunity of the people you have here in this room, in the community right here in Atlanta, and know that you don't have to really go outside of your own local community to have these resources available to you.
Dale did two, so I'm gonna do two. I'm gonna do them fast though. The first thing, y'all, look, this is not I'm not a subject matter expert by any means in what we're talking about. I'm grateful to be in the conversation with them. But I did go on a health journey. I was actually just looking back at this picture and was like,
That was me.
that was me. That's me. That's me. And look, I don't want to sound cliche about this, but like you just have to like take a step, like genuinely like one step, and not become overwhelmed by the idea that you need to go take a million steps. Just like one tomorrow, like just pick up one habit. And it did start kind of small for me. Like I started to increase my step count. Then I started to increase my water intake. And then over time, like it was like, oh, that's easy for me. Let me do some other stuff, right? And like I ended up,
I saw you working on it at 5 a.m. yesterday.
yeah, I started doing that. That became a part of the thing. And then I found a crew there, and I go there every other day. I'll be there tomorrow if you want to work out 5:30. But I ran the Peachtree, and the Peachtree led to the 10-miler, and the 10-miler led to a half marathon. I'm not going to run a marathon, but so if you thought that's how that was going to end, that's not how it's going to end. It ended at the half. But all in all, I say that to say take a step. The second thing is though, and to what all of this conversation has been about, we have to have these conversations in our community, right? And yes, maybe online, but like call that person that you've been meaning to call, whose health you may be slightly concerned about, and don't shame them, right? But just engage them in real loving conversation and do the work with them, right? I have an aunt where this was the sort of conversation that I was having with her, and then I asked her to just start to walk with me, right? And like, I didn't make it a fitness thing. We weren't going to boot camp, right? But just like on Sundays, come walk with me. And we started walking. And then walking became more of a habit for her over time. And that's her journey, not mine. I can't take credit for the work that she's done, but like I did play a really small part in just and just getting the steps in on Sunday that became Monday steps, that became Tuesday steps. So call somebody that you know. That again, you don't have to go find a stranger. Find somebody that's in your orbit already and make a difference in their life.
I love that. Thank you.
Thank
you so much for that.
Thank you.
So thank you to all of the panelists for all of this great information. We want to hand it back over to you. Are there any questions that you all have for the Acclinate Now Included team? For Ryan, this is your time.
So my name is Yvonne Dragon, co-founder of the Dragon Group, and a founding member of The Gathering Spot. So we've grown up with Gathering Spot and appreciate all the community. I've seen all versions of Ryan. And I just wanted to say I'm proud of you. This is a very important conversation, but I think we need to also talk about, for the entrepreneurs in the room, healthcare coverage and how that can be a barrier to getting proper health care. And it's different if you're single versus, married, and maybe your partner. I don't have that luxury. My partner is in my business with me. If you're married to somebody who is in a corporate setting and you take advantage of their benefits. And then when you have children, it gets a little more complicated. So any suggestions or ideas or thoughts around how entrepreneurs can care more for themselves despite the barriers to healthcare? Because it's so expensive. It's like really expensive.
What are you guys looking at me for?
I'm looking at the ex-business school dean to...
What's your name one more time? I'm sorry.
Yvonne Dragon of the Dragon Group.
Yeah, I love it. Yvonne, thanks for the first question and not having it be too easy. Absolutely. The health, it's a really big topic about health insurance. And again, I talk about telling stories, and I'll do this before I try to get to an answer. But, we always talk to our community. We've got about 170,000 people right now in our Now Included community and growing. And we're always talking about preventative care. And for me, I hit a certain age where colonoscopies was part of my routine. And I remember going and getting a colonoscopy, and I was recording the episode so we could share it with our community. And then so we were like, yeah, go get a colonoscopy. And then about 3 weeks later, and I have insurance, I got a $1,400 bill just for somebody to be like, yep, we checked you out, you're good. And I remember going back to our team and saying, something's wrong. How can we go and talk to people about going to get preventative care when now someone has to choose between paying their rent or getting something that says that they're okay? And so I will tell you, there's a part of the desire on our part to see if we can get to this next level with the company to where we're actually starting to solve some of the economic issues as it relates to coverage and being able to take care of the economics behind the preventative care. And so I lead to your part about, being an entrepreneur, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we know that this costs a lot of money. And I think for us as a company, we were probably at 10 employees. We're at 50 now before we provided coverage. And I remember our head of operations was like, this is how much it's going to cost us
She
for
reminds
this
us all the
coverage.
time.
But it was non-negotiable. Like, as a company, we can't expect people to be out there doing this hard work and not have the coverage themselves in that process. And so I know that doesn't get down to that individual level with that one person, but I think it's also a great business opportunity for someone to figure out how they can start to provide coverage for people that are in the entrepreneurial space, and maybe you're pooled together. So maybe that's Tiffany's next venture. It won't be mine, but maybe that's hers.
No, it's not. But I was going to say, there are oftentimes services provided through people even like Sky, where in some instances you could participate in a clinical research opportunity, and clinical research opportunity is very broad. It doesn't even mean that you might actually have that therapeutic. And you get all of the care. So all of your visits and everything else are fully covered if you're able to participate in something like that. That's one thing. Of course, there are a lot of people who are doing health screenings. Like, it's funny because so many companies come to us and they're like, we can't get Black people to participate in our breast cancer screenings. And we're like, what? Well, I was just in the community and they said they wanted that. What do you mean? Oh, because you were asking the wrong person, or because you didn't come in with care, because none of us want to participate in a transaction. That's my health care. And so I really think like there really is just a communication barrier, because the services are happening in local communities for free, holistic services too, like not just a blood pressure screening, like whole body services. And there are a lot of genetics companies who are wanting to do a lot of like earlier research in Black and brown communities. They just really don't have those inroads into the community. So, I mean, that's really why we started our company, is to try to figure out like how could we help pharmaceutical companies and research companies go into communities authentically, not just come in, hang up a flag, and then leave. So I would love to have a deeper conversation and specifically about Atlanta and figure out like what actually could be done in Atlanta, not just in a general sense for entrepreneurs, but just people who feel like I do have health insurance, but I still can't afford my copay. Yeah, because I know how much our copay is now even to go to the ER.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm just saying, it's a lot, because you ain't had to go to you don't have kids, young kids.
That's a lot.
I'll just say briefly, I am going to figure this out here. In 2019, we released a healthcare benefit for TGS members. It was good insurance, but it wasn't great insurance. And I'm going to figure this out. It obviously, the solution exists outside of us as a business, but we're going to find the right partner that, especially as the community scales, and we've got members in 8 cities, we're able to have a different conversation around what a group could look like. And I'm going to figure this out, right? Because in addition to mail services and dining and all the other things that we figured out in terms of like things that are part of the membership, we've got an alliance of other clubs that you can go to. That's fine, right? But like, if that was a healthcare benefit, especially for entrepreneurs, it's a game changer. It's just very difficult to find partners that will structure what we need in the way that we need it. It wasn't horribly expensive, but it wasn't great coverage. And I became over time uncomfortable with offering it as people were coming back from utilizing it, and it was just okay, right? So we'll figure it out, though. It's something that I'm really like, I'm personally passionate about. There's a whole suite of services that entrepreneurs, we just like don't get the benefit of because we've decided to go through this crazy process of starting a business. But our health should not be compromised because we've decided to go into business in that way.
Any other, that was a great question, by the way. Great question. Any other questions?
We didn't talk about rest and how that is therapeutic, and how, I don't know if y'all follow the NAP ministry
Yes.
lady, and how rest is a form of reparations, but it's also necessary for entrepreneurs. And can we talk a little bit about rest and how you use rest to, fuel you, continue your journey? Do you talk about rest with your employees?
There's an element of this which is optimization, and you're always trying to figure out, like, how do I optimize the resources? Please forgive me. I'm a business guy, as Tiffany said. So I look at things from a business lens, and not to make it impersonal, but this is just kind of the way my mind works. So you've got these great team of people that you brought together, and they're on your team. You're driving towards this lofty mission. How do you optimize that team? And rest, when you look at both the data and the research and do the observation, is non-negotiable, right? You cannot continue to utilize this resource and this person and not allow them to rest. And so as a company, and part of our team is here so they can test to that, I mean, we kind of have it to where, like, at the end of the day, on weekends, unplug. Like, there's not an expectation. We just, a couple weeks ago, implemented unlimited PTO. And as a business person, look, somebody's clapping like, yeah, are you guys hiring? Right? But again, I mean, we were talking about that, but at the end of the day, it was the evidence that suggests and shows that, listen, if you create the right culture, give your people the opportunity to rest. And so just our head of community just took 2 weeks off. And she showed up back on
Head of marketing
Monday.
2 weeks before that.
Yeah, but there was a different pep in her step,
Recharge came
and
back.
she was ready to go. And we had a good team that was able to pick up the load while she was there. So I think it's a testament to creating a good team, but it's non-negotiable. And that's the way we see it.
Yeah, I think from a founder perspective, I don't rest well. Like, I mean, to just be honest, like, I feel like I go, and when I look at my life holistically, like people say, take that string and put it out, and like this is like this little bitty part on that string of your life and where you are right now. I feel like even in building the company, I wanted to go really hard for these years that we negotiated, and I knew what I was signing up for. And even now with a 2-year-old, I'm like, I'll add some more years onto my original, negotiation. But I knew that was what I was doing. Like, that works for me. Actually, if I rest, I feel like I get too much rest. And then I'm like, wait, hold on, I got to like restart myself. And so sometimes it feels like a recharge and sometimes it feels like a restart. This guy over here, he likes to take naps. And so, sometimes in the middle of the day,
All the nap people, yay!
And so sometimes really like, you joke, you have to have fun at work, right? And so it's like, I'm joking, I'm like, did you take a nap today? But for me, it's like, I wake up, I go. And somebody was asking like, do you sleep easy at night? Yeah, I sleep perfectly easy. As soon as my head touches that bed, I am knocked out, literally tired. So that is my rest. And we've learned over a period of time to start to, have like Fridays, right? I have 2 college students and a 2-year-old. And so it's like in the summertime is their time off. Like I'm going to spend time with my family. Like that is rest. So I think it's like to each its own. And through the different phases, you figure out what's going to work for you. What worked in the beginning ain't going to work now and might not work later. So yeah. But naps are good. Naps.
We're going to go
They
with
work.
everything they said. Everything. I'm going to get canceled. No. We're going to go with...
Right, you don't nap.
I think rest is an intentional act. I think that it has to be purposeful, and it is absolutely necessary. I think there is a big distinction between being intentional about resting and being lazy. And I think people flirt with that distinction all the time.
My name is Lisa, and I have a question regarding, and this is really surrounded with regards to Ananda Lewis. So I am all for modern medicine. Full disclosure, I used to be a pharmaceutical sales rep, so I was a legal drug pusher. And just trying to balance out in the Black community the holistic approach versus modern medicine. So I don't know, for me, some of my friends, whenever I talk about, just take some medicine, take some drugs, are totally against it. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are versus the balance between holistic and going to see somebody who can provide you something. And I will say Zoloft is a really good drug. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on holistic versus modern medicine.
You want to start?
Oh, sure, absolutely. It's so interesting. So when I went to medical school, I went to medical school for naturopathic medicine, and I remember when I was in school, it was this thing that didn't really make sense to people. And then when I got out of school, that's when I started hearing about functional medicine and how medical doctors were going back to learn about preventive medicine and all the things that we've been learning about in public health and how our body has the ability to heal itself when it has the right tools, et cetera. So something that I think is incredibly important is that all people have to work together. So when I initially started working, I worked at a fertility office, and a lot of women were suffering with infertility. And something that I thought is very important and was important is you do want to be able to eat well. You want to be able to get your body ready for pregnancy or ready to live a long life or whatever it is. However, there are times where you need modern medicine. So if your tubes are blocked, there's not enough broccoli in the world that you can eat that's going to help you have a baby. So in those times, you may need intervention, from a reproductive endocrinologist. You may need modern medicine. However, I think that the two teams must work together. So just as much as we have preventive medicine, we have holistic health, we also want to work together as a team so that everyone can be supported and really have the health outcome they desire.
And that's why she leads medical at Acclinate. We had a question over here as well, too. That's it. Lisa, was that good? Anybody else want to chime in? Okay.
I am Dr. Uyowe Akpoibe. I walked in late, so I don't know if you already talked about what I'm going to talk about. First of all, thank you so much. I really appreciate everything you've talked about. They are really insightful. But one key thing that really changed things for me as a businesswoman is boundaries. Yeah. So I don't know if you touched on that before I walked in.
No, we haven't.
Okay. So for me, boundaries. Knowing when to say no. Like before, as a businesswoman, I jump on everything. Oh, what's happening? I realized that, as a matter of fact, I, got burned down completely. And what can you do when you don't even have any energy left inside of you? It's important for us to learn to say no unapologetically.
No, you're right.
Thank you.
Ryan, have you learned that lesson yet? How to say no? You good? Okay, he's got it. Thank you so much for that comment. Appreciate it. Yeah, you can tell from the response from people here that they recognize just how significant of a statement that is, and the outcome of burnout is what happens, what you see when people don't say no, and so appreciate you reminding us to do just that. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Callistia Wilkerson, and thank you all for having this platform and being able to have this open community dialogue. But one thing you mentioned is intentional. We have to be intentional about our health. We have to be intentional about our choice. As we make these decisions, and I'm learning, you can't be people pleasers. And that's going, okay, yes, I'm going to do this. Go through your boundaries. No, understanding no is one word, and it's okay for you to say no. As we continue to evolve, and one thing about clinical research, and I'm seeing, we do have to expose our community to clinical trials. I've been in the industry for 30 years. I'm considered an OG, an old school. And so to see this evolve to where it is, and to technology, AI, and doing in communities, to rural areas, it's amazing. And I just want to say thank you all for this opportunity. And I look forward to doing excellent things within the communities, now included in whatever we can do to help out.
Thank you. No, thank you for that. I mean, Ryan was super intentional when we first met, even to say, I want to make sure that my members have all of the resources and all of the education. What exactly do y'all want to do to partner? But let's have this conversation about clinical trials at the gathering spot, right? And so the intention was start in Atlanta, go to DC, go to LA, but make sure that the membership and that the communities are educated properly. And I bet you've seen a lot in your career, for sure, because even when we started the company, we were really here pre-social and civil unrest from George Floyd and COVID-19. No one was talking about clinical trials. The only time you heard about a clinical trial was when you were thinking about Henrietta Lacks, or you're thinking about something bad, right? You're thinking about Tuskegee and the syphilis study. So really, it's this opportunity to like fast forward. When you think about COVID-19, it really provided this really authentic, once in a lifetime, in my opinion, opportunity to turn on a TV and hear people, physicians and scientists, researchers across the world, really having this conversation about what they were going to do to stop what was happening to you. And so you were like leaning in, trying to figure out, like, okay, what's a clinical trial? What is this vaccine? Because before, vaccines were just something you did when you were going to start kindergarten, right? Or you were going to go into the military. And so it was this really authentic opportunity for us to say, like, no, but while y'all are leaned in, let me tell y'all that all these drugs that we're utilizing aren't as effective in people that look like us. And so there's this honest reflection that as afraid as we were to participate in that early research, people are still afraid to participate in research today for albuterol, for Zoloft, for whatever the drug is. And so we have to be honest. We have to do that research, and that's why I go back. It always goes back to education for me. Like, we have to be able to ask those questions. And I can imagine in your career, it went from a hell no to a maybe at best to some people really signing up and raising their hand to say, I want to be a part of the future of medicine.
Hi, my name is Shauna Pollard. I'm a psychologist in private practice. I just wanted to say thank you for this conversation. It's so helpful. One of the things I noticed specializing in ADHD is that it looked different for Black folks because trauma and ADHD are often more commonly traveling together, which means the recommendations are a little bit different in terms of medication and treatment. And so I think it's great that you guys are creating this opportunity for Black folks and people of color to be involved in research because it's so needed. And I don't think a lot of people realize how we haven't been included historically in studies. A lot of the beginning studies around ADHD are on like Swedish families and groups, and so they don't really represent our experience. So thank you guys.
Good evening, my name is Renee. Tiffany, you said something earlier about athletes, right? And it made me think about my son. He's getting ready to go to college, and he's a track athlete, right?
Okay.
And then looking through his paperwork, they're getting him to be tested for sickle cell. And I was like, I've never thought about getting him tested for sickle cell. Why are we doing this? So my question is, and we talked a lot about education, how do we continue to educate? What tips do you have for us as we're talking to folks and we're trying to help educate people? Because we talked about trust. There's a lot of lack of trust, especially when it comes to doctors and medical things that people go back to Henrietta Lacks, right? They go back to that one instance that they read about and they're like, I don't trust these folks. So how do we help build capacity and in educating our community?
Well, I want to go back to this conversation you need to have at home, because I have a college athlete at home. And just yesterday, I said, your responsibility today is to email the athletic director or whoever you have to email and find out, where are your test results? Because he had to do the sickle cell test as well as a concussion test, and he had an EKG, and I'm like, where are all of these results? Like, how do you have a baseline? He was like, I don't know, my coach has them. That is not a good enough answer, sir. No, that is not a good enough answer. So I would just want to, I'm joking and not joking, to say, go home and have that conversation with your son and figure it out for your own family first, for sure. And I think it's just a systemic issue across the board that we're not doing that early testing in communities, and some of it does go back to pricing and availability. For sure, but it's really all about like the system. Like all of these things we're really talking about, honestly, today, you have to go outside of the system, the standard of care, to find these things that we're talking about, whether it's genetic testing, whether it's early testing. Like, if you're not going to the doctor regularly, you're not going to be exposed to any of these things. And even I have a primary care physician that I visited before, and I would ask questions and like, well, you don't need it, or like, by age, you don't qualify, or because I was adopted, they're like, oh, you don't have your family history, so there's no need to do that right now. I'm like, I feel like there's more need to do that right now, but that's neither here nor there. So, you really are going to have to research, ask questions, look on the platform. We have a lot of connectors on the actual platform, on the Now Included platform, but it's really like you having to go out there and educate yourself and your family first before you can really get involved in the community. Anything about sickle cell?
No, I can relate. So I full disclosure, I had my son at a young age. I was 17 years old. And I remember going into the doctor after he was born, and the doctor was like, now, which one of you have sickle cell? And I was like, wait, hold on a second. What are you talking about? What is this? And because, my son tested positive for that. And then I had to take up the mantle to educate. I've got 3 sons now and 2 grandsons, to educate them all on you carry this trait, which they all do. And now you've got to make some decisions to make sure that your partner gets tested for this before you decide to have children. But like that's not commonplace. People don't really understand that. So this is why this discussion is important. I just really encourage everybody. It's a great platform that we've created. I'd love to see you join the platform. But more importantly, just have these discussions about health with, opening up, be at the dinner table and be like, hey, does anybody know your blood type? And then see how everybody gets silent, like, I don't know. You can just start there. So I love Ryan's suggestion. Just find something small to start with on this is what we recommend to you.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you all so much for your questions. Thank you all so much for showing up today. I really feel something special brewing here. I am a little biased because I work for them, but they really are walking it and talking it about how they treat us and how they treat communities, and just hearing what you're trying to do with the Gathering Spot and hearing what you're actively doing with Now Included. It makes me feel excited for the future in a way that I haven't in a long time. So thank you all for what you're doing, and thank you all for showing up.
I want to say this, and I hate to do this. I just want to say, nobody is coming to save us. Okay, I just want to say that. I'm on this trip right now because we keep looking for the system to change on all these different areas, and if we don't understand that today, politics, economics, and health, nobody's coming to save us. So we have to be empowered and take the action to save ourselves. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.